What's going on, YouTube? So by popular demand, we have the Yujin. Sort of works. The math is the most complicated math in this game. And the best ways to go about dealing the most damage with Yujin and the best ways to go about protecting the party. First up, his passive, Stop Overreacting, shortens the time it takes to revive someone by quite a lot. And whenever you do revive someone, it gives them a maximum HP increase. The duration of additional prescription, the thing that gives you as a revived ally extra HP, does get affected by duration, which isn't always the case with a lot of skills. Like Ajax Barrier will always last 25 seconds. First up, we have Solidarity Healing. Solidarity Healing is sort of unique. So whenever you activate a Solidarity Healing, you summon a turret that attaches to your ally. The turret itself gives your ally recovery, and whenever the turret goes away, you get a buff, and the buff looks like the floating little drone icon. And after a certain amount of time, the buff will end up as a green little square with a turret icon in it, as seen right here. Now, while the turret is connecting, you have to stay within range of the ally that you gave the buff to. Once the turret times out, the buff will last on Yujin, and you can walk however far away from them as you want to. The duration on stimulant and sustain recovery are the buffs on Yujin and the ally that you gave the buff to. You'll see it says stimulant and then accelerant. This is just a translation issue. They are in fact the same thing. Depending on how you want to build for Yujin, the duration is very important, or it could be not so important, especially if you choose cooldown over duration when building Yujin. The range, although linear, so here it says radius, but really it's a straight line, can have a great impact upon how you use Solidarity Healing. You will see here target max HP times 9%. This is not how much you're going to recover. This is actually how much you can recover without the assistance of extra recovery HP heal modifiers. So this is based off of your skill power and your build. If your build is high enough, you can heal up to 9%. Same for target max HP. Once the drone goes away and you get that little green buff, you and the person you gave the buff to will acquire stimulant, which gives you a 34% firearm attack increase and 23% skill power increase. These are not affected by your skill power or cannot be increased anyway, outside of possibly transcendent modules. Whenever you cast the ability, you will see a laser beam. You need to come in contact with the ally that you're casting it on so that the laser beam can highlight them. And then if you have no viable target, it just goes away. Up next, we have Restructure Serum. Restructure Serum is a little green ball that you launch, causing a buff or a debuff on top of their head. This debuff offers a myriad of bonuses towards Yujin and the party. So first you have 2 stacks. This means that it's on a cyclical stack cooldown timer. Each stack has its own cooldown. Its duration 5 seconds can be increased based off of a duration module. And the received damage increase upon the enemy is increased by 10%. What this means is that any damage that is dealt to an enemy is increased by 10% from any source that it could be dealt from, whether that source is dealt from an exploding barrel, a firearm, or a skill attack. Then that debuff causes a radius around the enemy. The radius around the enemy offers a myriad of buffs to the ally. So whenever Yujin shoots the enemy, can gain up to 8.6% health. Whenever it says 8.6% health or any health modifier on Yujin, it's talking about the person that's getting recovered health, not Yujin's health. And then whenever you kill an enemy, they get healed for 26.9% maximum health, based off of your skill power modifier. This just means that if your skill power modifier is high enough, you can get up to 26% health. I'll go into how the math of healing on Yujin works after I go over his skills. And then the allergy acts differently on Colossus enemies. On Colossus attack, you can only gain up to a little less than 1% of your health per hit. Stimulant spray is kind of difficult, so you can stack up to 15 times whenever you add the stimulant spray. For each tick of damage that you get applied to your character, wherever the tick of damage comes from, whether it be Gluttony's one-shot shotgun blast or Roly Poly's pew-pew, you gain up to 62% of your maximum in healing if your skill power is high enough. While stimulant spray is affected on all descendants, the duration, however long the duration is, you get 25% damage mitigation, which is 25% from all sources, whether it be elemental or defense or an exploding barrel. And then we have Hyperactive Healing Ground.
I'll make sure you recover.
This disc, upon activation, you cannot perform any actions except for run while you are in the mode, and you cannot sprint either. Once the skill ends, you will see two buffs, two green squares. One is Purification and the other is Hyperactivity. Purification provides you immunity to all debuffs, so you cannot be frozen, you cannot be burned, you cannot be electrocuted. And then Hyperactivity just gives separate firearm and a separate skill power increase from the first ability. Once again, this can be added on to by duration, so if you're building specifically a buff Yujin, the combination of Hyperactivity Healing Ground and Solidarity Healing can be a strong build. In addition to that, you can heal them up to 163% of their maximum hit points, which is obviously everything over. The reason it says 163% is because you can do certain things on Yujin that decreases your healing power, which means that this ability will heal a lot, regardless of whatever build you have. So if you need to put on maximized range with a modifier of -20, it sort of covers you on that basis. Going forward in my builds, I will go over the basic of the character, and then I'll be going over one build because I do plan to build every descendant each possible way they could be built given the future of the first descendant. So Yujin has 4 acquirable modules in the game. The first module is First Aid Kit. With First Aid Kit, you get 2 stacks of a med kit. The med kit is summonable out to a large range, so if your allies are far away from you, this isn't really an issue. And then anyone can go and pick up health. Now you'll notice that there is no skill power modifier on First Aid Kit. This would mean that they just get healed for 27.4%. This is not predicated on your skill power. However, First Aid, which is the following buff that it gives you, seen by yet another green block, you'll see that there is a 5 on here. That is because once that ability cools down, it cycles 5 times. Each stack gives you a defense increase and a toxic resistance increase. I'm not actually sure why they would give you a toxic resistance increase. However, this might be important in the upcoming Deathstalker, once again affected by duration. Proliferating Allergy is everyone's ad clearing build for Yujin. This helps you farm a little bit easier inside of the game if you either don't have a party to play with or you don't want to max out a Thunder Cage. You can make a myriad of builds with this as well. Upon reading this wall of text, it is seemingly complicated. You still get the same 10% received damage increase from all sources, and it fires an AoE. You'll notice it doesn't look like an AoE. That is because it's not talking about the explosion from the skill itself. So this is only whenever the effect ends or whenever a opponent is defeated. If we fire it and we wait for the effect to end, 7 meters out, it kills everything. Or explodes everywhere, or whatever the range on your Yujin is. The same thing happens if we just kill it ourselves. As you can imagine, this is a mob destroyer, because an infected enemy is a dead enemy. Whenever the enemy explodes, it sends more infliction to the enemies. You might be wondering yourself why Freyna doesn't have something like this, and it's sort of Contagion. Although I do think Proliferating Allergy is better than Contagion. Shoot me if you must. Then we have Efficient Treatment. You'll notice this is Hyperactivity, and this is referencing Hyperactivity. Whenever you heal an ally 3 times, you gain up to 65% of your hit points back, as well as Hyperactivity. If you are building a solo DPS Yujin build, this is the most damaging possible way you could build that build, because you get Hyperactivity from Hyperactive Healing Ground and Solidarity Healing. The reason Restructure Serum is not included in this is because you could simply just cast 2 and then constantly have 5% incoming recovery up and Hyperactivity all the time. How does Yujin's healing work? I'll explain. How Yujin's healing works is extremely unique. It isn't based off like the normal math inside of the video game. Normally, whenever you do damage, it's your skill power times your skill power modifier boost ratio times other boost modifier boost ratios with the skill power modifier added to the skill. How Yujin's healing works is different, or it is based off of your skill power, which is directly altered by the weapon you have mounted, your reactor, all of your boost ratios, and the skill power modifier as well. So Yujin's healing is most likely a sigmoid function. The less you put in it, the less you'll get out of it. The more you put in it, the more you get out of it. However, you can reach the upper end of the healing function very quickly, and you cannot go past the cap. The cap in this case would be the target max HP, because that is the target of the maximum HP you are trying to reach with your healing capabilities. Then is your skill power modified by whatever your modifier is on healing based on your build. Here I have a minus 20% on maximized conservation. This does not show itself on duty and sacrifice inside of the skill. However, it does take effect the same way. You would think that 20% is 20%, however, it is not linear. So 20% may or may not be more sometimes and more other times, depending on where you are inside of the function. I'm not going to do enough data collecting to figure out the equation of the sigmoid function, because I'm not entirely sure that it is a sigmoid function, but that's what it is most likely. If you want to do the groundwork, go for it. If you are interested in testing your own Yujin, please have a setting ready with only overwhelming defense active. This will set your HP to 1. And you can save the setting. You'll get 1 HP. And then whenever you go to your build, you will have dealt 99.99% of your damage into yourself. Then you can start testing your own healing. If I have only the 2 focus on modules, focus on non-attribute, and focus on fusion, which are both of the 4 ability, you'll see I almost max out the entire health gauge. If I simply change the mounting of my reactor, you can see I've lost quite a bit of healing, and that's just by changing the mount of the reactor. But with focus on fusion, you have a almost maximum increase in health by simply activating duty and sacrifice. If you count the first recovery tick inside of duty and sacrifice, you get 100% HP, but that is with this build. So the maximum that you can heal for 82% of your hit points, as shown in duty and sacrifice. All of the HP heal modules let you go beyond the 82%. If you are healing people for 82%, you can get almost 100 with safe recovery. I have chosen stim accelerant and increased HP. If you want to sacrifice some of your shields instead of your MP, that is fine. They are interchangeable depending on your build. MP conversion for cooldown is absolutely necessary. Skill extension extends the amount of time that your skill comes past in order for you to always have Passionate Sponsor active. Nimble Fingers lowers your cooldown even more so that you can cast your duty and sacrifice even more often. Then focus on fusion and focus on non-attribute are required, as the scaling is very weird, going from 0 to 1,000 healing. You will notice that your reactor plays a larger part than you think. If you want to run a legendary reactor on your Yujin, I highly suggest that you do not run any negative skill power modifiers, as you will run into some maximum healing issues. So I recommend an ultimate mounted reactor with either fusion or non-attribute on the secondary roll, and you can go for skill cooldown or skill cost. It is up to you on that front. You'll get all of your damage out of your gun, so whatever gun you're using, I highly recommend you crack it out as much as possible. The top 5 damage over time guns that I prefer using are Greg's Reverse Fate, a Perforator, the Secret Garden. Even though it doesn't do anything for Yujin, it has a 50% base skill critical hit rate, so you can max it out to 100% skill critical hit rate. And of course, there is Enduring Legacy, and the Nods build if you want to debuff the boss 30%. If you are going to debuff the boss by 30%, there is an issue. Oh, my brain still hurts. If we take a peek at the Swamp Walker, you will see 176,000 defense. 30% of 176,000 defense does not scale the same in damage addition the higher you go up in difficulty. Gluttony has 194,000 defense, which makes Gluttony way more susceptible to firearms than he is to elemental damage. So the higher we go in difficulty in the game, I reckon the higher the defense will be on the enemies. 30% will continue to give you less damage returns as we progress through the game. So if you're hoping that they continue to buff the defense mitigation of Naz, it might not be so, and it might be so. Just keep this in mind whenever you're building for the gun. And that's just because defense scales. The more you add to your defense, the lower your defense is, the higher damage mitigation you'll get. The higher your defense is, the more defense you remove, the less damage returns you'll see on investment. I personally have the Greg's tactical rifle. It is not leveled up all the way. I will put a lot of my future investments into the Greg's weapon simply because of the firearm attack increase from Passionate Sponsor. The firearm attack increase from Passionate Sponsor gives you 10 stacks at 7.5% each, giving you an extra 75% firearm attack increase at maximum stacks for 10 seconds. The buff from Duty and Sacrifice does count as one of these stacks. The 10-second delay from the end of Duty and Sacrifice to the next time you could cast Duty and Sacrifice, or the first ability that also buffs your allies, or the third ability that also buffs your allies, or the second ability that debuffs the enemy that also buffs your allies when you shoot him, is negligible. If you're using Yujin correctly, you will always have Passionate Sponsor activated. The mounting from the Reactor is not necessary, but if you want the most bang out of your buck for your healing, you actually do need a mounted Reactor, as long as you want to run negative modifiers on your build. At the end of the segment is Yujin in a group setting against Gluttony, keeping the entire party alive. You'll see the mistakes I made in not healing when I should have, but you'll notice I don't ever run out of MP that much, and I'm able to proc Passionate Sponsor all the time. On for the external components. So the external components of Yujin I have as my preset. So currently I have chill resistance on as my sensor and defense on my memory. I recommend one elemental resistance on your external components for whatever you're fighting. It will keep you alive even more than you need to, if you even need it, honestly. And the defense on the support memory will stop a lot of incoming damage. Everything else, if the stat can have MP as a stat inside of that module, you want MP inside of that module, with the exception of the power unit you want HP on. The power unit is the only unit that has maximum HP, and you can handle your own HP recovery provided you have MP. Here you can see me on live stream fighting Gluttony with a party. Whenever someone's hit points are down, you can bring them up to 100%. It will also recover their shields by 100%, so it is kind of hard for the party to die unless they have a hit point level at which they just get one shot from whatever attack. Whenever you're Yujin, you want to maintain DPS on the boss as much as humanly possible. You want to make sure no one dies as much as humanly possible. And you want to make sure your weapon is fully cracked out. Anyway, that video will be at the end of this video. I do a lot of this testing, and I even made this video on live stream if you want to check that out. Link of my Twitch will be in the description of this video. Forget the Discord thing. Check out my channel if you like the way I do content. Consider subscribing. Have a sick day. Peace out. In the upcoming segment of the video, my Greg's is highly not leveled up, so I should be doing about twice the amount of damage that I'm doing inside of the video. There is another Yujin inside of the video who is also helping heal the party, so keep in mind that his heals are not my heals. You can see the mistakes I made along the way. The things that you would change are quite obvious, and the mistakes that I made are quite obvious. However, you can also see the sheer healing power, damage potential, and party capabilities that Yujin holds. Enjoy. Oh yeah, you load those shaders, Jim. I wouldn't stand there.
I'll make sure you recover. What the hell?
Watch out for the flash!
Damn it. Ah, got you.
Or I might just carry people through with Yujin and tell them to earn a whole bunch of hit points.
Healing has begun.
My shield is down.
Oh.
Watch out for the blast.
What the hell?
How dare you break my shield?
This.
This could get messy. Stop.
Oh, these are beefy. Oh, whoops.
Hey. Treating you perhaps. Get back out there. Fight. What? Let me. Let the healing kick in.
Oh, I'm out of ammo. Sad.
Shields are gone. I'm begging you, please save me.
Activate healing zone.
How dare you break my shield? One for you.
Healing has begun.
Ah, dang it. I was trying to get his weak point before he got him. The frenzy.
How dare you break my shield?
Blow.
Oh.
Watch out for the blast.
Let's see this through to the end. Damn it.
Did they make Gluttony weaker? Because, like, maybe I was just weak when I fought him. Dang it. I was off. There we go.
Healing has begun.
Bro.
I'll make sure you recover. A successful removal.